And welcome back to episode 170 of the Weekly Tech Rant with me, Jay.
And me, Carl.
Well, Carl, it is that time of year once again for WWDC 2024. Well, that's obviously this year's, not last year's.
And maybe next year you'll catch it live.
Yes, maybe I will. But it is that time of year where we cover the latest and greatest developments in the Apple software world that is covered at WWDC, or the Worldwide Developer Conference, as Apple would refer to it. So this is the main event of the year where Apple give us all of the insight into the latest software developments that they are going to be bringing to iOS 18, iPad OS 18, Watch OS 11, why that doesn't follow, and Mac OS 15, which is codenamed Sequoia. I've probably pronounced that wrongly again. And of course, there was Vision Pro 2.0, wasn't it? I think that was what it was called.
Yes.
And of course, we got introduced to Apple Intelligence. Yes, your fruit is now smart. Oh, no, that's not right. Well, yes, and it was a pretty big year. I mean, there was most of the rumors seem to be accurate. This keeps happening, doesn't it?
Yep.
And we had, of course, the esteemed Apple commentator critic, Mark Gurman, he of Bloomberg, who, was forecasting modest updates to iOS 18 and then did a great big U-turn before the event to suggest it was great. But it was a big keynote as well, wasn't it? I mean, nearly 2 hours, wasn't it? I think, what was it?
Yeah, it was a long one. Yeah, nearly 2 hours.
And yes, you're right. You listened to the whole thing live. I was unable to.
Again, at the last minute. You thought you were going to be able to, and I spent the whole time texting you.
I'll be your live blogging is superb. You need some AI in there to do some.
I do. Might make life easier.
It was indeed. But what do you think? I mean, just before we get into the nitty gritty of all of the items, then what were your personal kind of high points? Do you think this year's a big year for software apps?
Yeah. I mean, the way they laid it out. There was kind of the usual updates, and there was one last thing at the end, which was the big wow piece. Until that point, it was a bit average. There were some definitely nice features, some bits I didn't see coming, which is always great to have, but it was a bit meh to start off with. But yeah, it definitely did improve.
It was, yeah. I think there are a lot of things that they've covered here. There's a few things they didn't cover in the keynote that we'll mention, but I think iOS 18 is a big evolution. Yeah. And when I say iOS 18, I mean iPad OS as well. I think we're seeing a real evolution of the operating system now. The key point is the AI and ML underpinnings, which aren't necessarily Apple Intelligence, but are there to improve it. So I tell you what, let's dive straight in then to iOS 18 then, and kick off with some of the highlights that are coming to iOS 18 in September. Now I say September, but dates may vary.
Apple, it might be next year for some of the features. But the ones we have already seen now, we're running some betas, aren't we? We got customizations finally. So it's kind of what they call new theming options. Basically, you can place app icons anywhere you want now, rather than having them ping back to fill the space, which is a nice one. You can make those icons larger if you want to. You can tint them as well, can't you? Or what Apple calls tints.
So this is kind of killing the grid, isn't it? Apple icons had to live in this amazing world of rigidity and grid, and you had to snap to it. But when they released the widgets, and you can't, the widgets had to be one place, and all the app icons kind of had to move around
in the gaps, didn't they?
Yeah, and if you had a nice photo on your screen, it was obscured by the grid, if you will, wouldn't it? But you're right now, so you can now move them around. You can have kind of big gaps in the middle, as you say. And this tinting applies to all the apps, doesn't it? It's not just one or two. It's like
it's kind of like you can
whitewash or greenwash or yellow.
Like you kind of like some of the apps nowadays, like Reddit and other apps. You can choose your icon, can't you? Well, this is not quite choosing your icon, but it allows you to change the color of them, so you can make it black and white, couldn't you? You could have a green tint or a yellow tint, as you mentioned, a dark mode version of it, all without the developers having to do anything.
Yeah, and the dark mode looks really cool because the whole thing now dims, isn't it? The whole the accents on it, the shadowing, everything goes dark. In fact, I almost want to run dark mode all the time. Seeing that new update, I have to say.
You can also remove the text from underneath the icons.
Yes, and that was cool because used to be hacks for that. Do you remember in the early days?
There was, yeah.
But that's it. And again, as you say, this also brings updates to the control center as well. So it's not just apps and
Yes.
icons. The control center is fully customizable now.
Kind of
You
got
can move.
what do they call? They call it. I can't. What they call it now. But basically, you can have multiple pages in the control center now,
Yeah,
and you
that's
can
right.
have different pages. Like one page maybe for your home automation controls, another one for system controls, those kind of bits and pieces.
Yeah, well, funny enough, if I flick on my demo device now, you've got the control center, which, by the way, some of the icons have gone a bit more rounded now. They look a bit
Yep.
nicer. And on the right hand side, you've got like four icons. There's a heart, there's a music symbol, there's a house, as you say, home automation, and there's one at the bottom which has got all of your
Mm.
networking communication ones. And it's much easier. You just click on them, you can drag them. There's
Yeah, you can
also
move this
really
around.
yeah, there's also another thing, by the way. I don't know if you saw this, that if you press on the volume controls on the right or left hand side, the bezel moves.
I saw that when they showed it in the thing. I've not had much of a chance to play with my actual test device yet.
So the,
Uh,
so the bezel moves. So when you push like
hmm,
the volume up, the black edge of the bezel sort of nudges in.
Gonna try that one
Very
now.
cool.
Oh, it does. Yes,
Look at
very
that.
cool. Well, I've
Makes,
got a dark background, so it's a bit harder to see, but it does indeed.
makes for
Also,
great radio. Yeah.
also for that control set, though, you're now going to get a controls gallery, which is basically widgets. So third
Yeah.
parties can add widgets and stuff to the control center now. And
Yeah, I guess that's handy if you've got an app that's kind of uses like a tool or something like that. You can
yeah,
have
I
it.
mean, we use Home Assistant. That would be
Yeah,
great to
that'd
have
be
some
great.
widgets
Yeah,
so I can
yeah.
control some maybe lights to the office or something, or alarm on and off without having to go into the app, the house alarm, that kind of stuff would be quite handy.
Yeah, that's quite a cool one. Yeah, I didn't think about that, but that'd be quite good with the API.
And
So
the
that,
big news, though, is
yep,
replacing the flashlight and the camera on the lock
yes,
screen.
yes, very good point. So yeah,
You
you're right.
put,
They've had pride of place, haven't they? There at the bottom of the screen.
I'm not sure what else I'd put on them. I use the flashlight and the camera
A
there all
lot.
the time, so they're probably going to stay the same. But it's nice to have the option.
I did think that. Um,
Well, I don't have an action button, do I? So maybe
no,
when
no.
we get our new phones, we'll have the action button. That'll be the camera. So maybe we'll replace the camera or something.
Well, yeah, but you're right though. 90% of the time, I've got my phone like here. I click it. Oh, I'll just hit the camera button because I want to take a picture of something. You know.
Yeah, I don't unlock it and then go find the camera app. I hate it on the lock screen.
And the flashlight. The flashlight again is super handy. I can't think of anything else. You're right. Why would I want to put anything else there? Anyway,
It'd be nice to have
anyway,
maybe to
though,
put a
yeah.
couple extra there across the bottom, maybe. Maybe have the option for 4, but Apple hasn't granted us that.
No, I think it wasn't. So Mr. Cook clearly didn't want us changing it to anything else.
No, not too much.
Two's your limit. Two's your limit. That's it.
Ooh, calm down.
So what else did we get an upgrade then? So a few
We
other
got
things got updated, didn't they?
locked and hidden apps, didn't we?
We did. Now that's a really kind of interesting feature because before if you're managing devices, you'd have just removed apps from a device, wouldn't you, or screen timed it. But this is kind of different, isn't it? As you say, this is kind of on the device itself.
Yeah, I mean, actually, the hidden one has been there before. We'll say, if you're a managing device of MDM, I do it with the kids. You can hide icons and stuff. The app's still on the device. They just can't find the icon to launch it. So this is supposed to bringing that to consumers, making it easy. You can have a folder full of apps, which then hides. You can lock that with FaceTime or Touch ID, depending on what you're using. And you can do it down to individual apps as well. It's not just what's in the folder. So nice to have the option. So especially for apps that might have sensitive information but don't actually have an authentication mechanism on them.
No, and this was also around Apple's view for privacy, isn't it? And
Mm.
their words were to empower users. So you're right. You know, we've had the ability before to lock apps or lock features in apps. Certainly in photos, you've got the deleted items, isn't it? You can
And the
have
hidden folder, yeah, in
that's it, yeah.
photos.
But now it means that you have to have Face ID to open or show content in certain applications, and that content will also not show up in the Spotlight search as well.
Oh yes, that was the important bit. It doesn't show up in any other part of the system once you've hidden it. So all
No.
search results recently use that kind of stuff. I mean, that could be quite good if you're giving your phone or your iPad to your kid to play with. You don't want them going into photos maybe, or opening up financial apps or stuff like that.
No, I think it's a really good idea. And there was also something else as well, talking of the privacy elements of that. It's also now there's a new way to share contacts or information. So I don't know about you, when you connect your car, you know, when you got your car and you connect the CarPlay to the phone,
Yep.
and it says, "Do you want to share contacts?" Isn't it?
No,
Or
I don't
another
want it.
Bluetooth? No, but now you can decide to select certain contacts, or or an application or a third party accessory without letting the app see all the devices on a network or keeping those private or the contacts you want to share with that device
So
or user as well.
it's like photos, isn't it? Because you don't have to share the
Yeah,
entire photo. So you still can, but you can say just individual ones.
absolutely. And I guess that's a good place to talk about the new Photos app as well, because that got a bit of an overhaul too, didn't it? Really kind of bringing in a lot of the features that we see on Mac OS. But as I, kind of saying to you in the green room, with the demo devices, it kind of makes it more usable now because you've got the traditional photos at the top. You can swipe left or right there as
Yeah.
well to get for the library. It'll show you a grid. It'll show you featured things, and it'll show you people as well, which is really cool. And then it shows you recent days. So mine, for example,
Yeah.
shows Sunday, the 4th of June, the 25th of May, and I can flick to that day where clearly I took a lot of pictures.
Yep.
Then also mentions about like the ability to show people and pets in the libraries, pin collections, memories are all there as before.
So,
And
yeah.
at the bottom, there's a really cool utility thing now. So they've split out, where it used to say like video, selfies, the albums.
Yeah.
And now you get one that even says things like receipts.
Nice. So I've not had much chance to play with this one because I've got it on a test device that doesn't really have any photos. But what are collections and how are they different from albums?
Well, the collections, as I understand it, are things like favorites, recently saved pictures, maps, videos, screenshots, those sort of things.
But they were already there before because you can create new collections. But how is it
Yes.
different from creating a new album or sticking any
I'm not-
photos in like
well-
I do, which is what I've currently got. I then share an album like I did for snowboarding. I couldn't quite get my head around what was different in a collection to an album.
No, so when you click on that piece, it shows you favorites, recently saved maps,
Yeah.
etc. Then there are other suggestions like people and pets or trips,
okay.
etc. But I think a collection is rather than a physical album, it is basically almost like a tagging system.
Right, like a search query.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I think I said you can also tag albums in it. The other cool thing at the bottom of the app now, it also gives you wallpaper suggestions that it generates for you.
Nice.
I think that's really good. Some good ones in there on that. I can't wait to use it on my main device to try that. But yeah, I'm really impressed with that.
I might leave it a few more betas yet.
Yeah, maybe. But I'll be honest with you. This is Dev Beta 1, and this is far more stable than I've seen some later betas in the older versions of iOS. I mean, there were days before where I would never have installed a Beta 1. Now, this I mean, I haven't done put this way. I've not seen or heard any issues so far with all the key apps I'm running.
Nice. I might wait for the public betas though.
Before we put on the main phone. Yeah,
exactly.
So, what else did we get? So messages got a big overhaul as well.
It did. One, it got RCS messaging support.
Oh,
finally,
God, RCS.
Still green bubbles though. Even Apple, Apple does that summary screenshot, doesn't it, with iOS written in the middle and all the key features, and it's got RCS. It's got a green bubble. It's got this little dig there at Google.
That's Tim going. No.
No, exactly. So yeah, it got RCS support. The big one for me that I didn't see coming was WoW. So obviously, was it last year or the year before? We got it was the year before, wasn't it? We got messages. Oh, sorry, we got emergency messages via satellite, didn't we? Yep. Well, with the latest iOS 18, you get iMessage and SMS via satellite for free, as long as you've got an iPhone 14 or later.
This is quite cool because I obviously haven't used the emergency satellite piece, and I hope to never have to use it.
No, exactly.
But the messaging one, I think I'd use that quite a lot because there are times when you can be places where there just isn't strong signal.
Yeah. London being one of them quite often.
Ironically, yes,
Though whether I can see the satellite in London is another question.
No. And is that going to work on a plane? That's what I want to know.
Ooh, I hadn't thought of that one.
Oh,
I'll have to load that beta. Well, I mean, is it live now on the satellite stuff?
I don't think it is. No, I don't think it is.
I might have to load that on before our next trip.
But yeah, satellite messaging is pretty cool. As you say, it's going to work with iMessages. You can also use basically it's all the features in iMessage, isn't it? There's no difference in the satellite.
Yeah, and it's two-way. It's not one-way, so someone can message you back.
Yeah.
But I suppose you then have to get a satellite lock to receive the message, so it's quite involved at that point.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of... Yeah, you're right. There is a way around that. But again, a useful feature. Now, again, there was no cost mentioned at this stage. We should be clear on that.
Yeah.
Like with Apple in a lot of things, they're not clear on the costing. The SOS messaging that came with the iPhone 14... Yeah, it was with 14.
14, yeah.
there was no cost associated with that, but Apple have kept extending it. So we're now on an extra year, aren't we?
Yeah, they said free for the first 2 years. They've given it an extra year. I suppose it's probably because they haven't figured out how they're going to monetize it, or if they are.
No, I have a feeling that this could be subsidized through iCloud, but I'm not sure. Just a thought. I don't know.
I imagine the emergency SOS and the roadside assistance ones will continue to be free at the very least, regardless of whether you've got iCloud or not, just because that's a major selling point feature.
It is.
Normal messaging, you're right, maybe you need an Apple One subscription, or maybe it's a bolt-on to a normal subscription, £2 a month, or I don't know, I'm just imagining here.
And with the messages as well, we also got new tap back features. So instead of those grey thumbs up or whatever,
and you can never quite find the one you want, can you?
No, you can now do
5 options.
You can now do emojis as well in that, so you can get the proper emojis in there.
Yeah.
There's new kind of text effects, so you can do all editing, that kind of stuff. I mean,
like kind of rich text, isn't it? You can make it bigger, smaller, change the font, make it all wavy, change the color of it. But it also does effects like if you said blow up or something like that, it'll do. Yeah.
And the other thing, you can now have scheduled sending as well, so that's pretty cool.
Yes.
The RCS piece, as you mentioned, so you get rich media in that, you get group messaging, better enhancements than standard SMS protocol. Again, not a massive rip and replace, but a good overhaul of the capabilities and features in my view.
Yeah. Oh, and the one thing we missed on that, the emojis, you can create your own now. They didn't say AI. Well, but it's clearly AI. But it's if you say I can't quite. I think the example they use is they want a dinosaur in a shirt or a hat or something riding a surfboard. Obviously, that isn't a normal emoji, but they typed that in to the emoji finder and it offered to create it for them, and it created them an emoji which they then paste into their message.
And they called it?
I can't remember what they called that one.
Genmojis.
What emojis?
Genmojis.
Genmojis, right? Okay.
Generational emojis. Genmojis.
Right, I must have missed that one, but
I think it was in the after the kind of the follow up on it. The other thing that got an overhaul as well was Mail. I don't know if you saw that. So Mail, not up release, but coming in the later iterations of iOS 18, iPadOS 18. There's the Mail apps also getting an update as well. So there'll be basically a lot of this stuff is built into desktop clients, but categorizations. So shoppings, transactions, receipts, social information notifications. Also has a digest that pulls together relevant information and emails. And if you've got things like travel itineraries, it puts all that together in one thing as well. So again, handy little fixes there. Safari got an upgrade as well, as always. Some new updates in Safari. It's using, now they didn't say AI, but they said machine learning. That can pull out information about the page you're looking at, summary information, kind of songs or information, a new reader capability. So again, just as you stressed, this isn't the AI, this is ML. Just pieces there again, and that's the theme here, isn't it? We'll get to Apple Intelligence, but the theme here is that AI and ML is underpinning a lot of the capabilities in iOS 18 now.
Definitely. I think the last two we got were topographical mapping in Apple Maps, which is offline for kind of hiking maps, that kind of stuff, and game mode.
Yes, game mode. So same as the Mac OS version, it enhances your frame rates, doesn't it? Frees up memory.
It does. Shuts down background processes, that kind of stuff.
Service, isn't it, basically?
And
we forgot the passwords app as well. So that was the other thing that got released.
Yes.
The password app, which is really the evolution of Keychain. So, on your phone today, you can save passwords when you create an app or you log into something. It says you want to save it, and you can save that in the keychain, which is really good. The problem with that, though, is I don't think everybody's fully aware of where you go to find that in settings and passwords. It's not always straightforward.
Not intuitive, is it?
No. So this is a brand new app that basically pulls all that information out, gives you passkeys, Wi-Fi, other codes. It's a password manager, quite frankly.
It is. Yeah.
And it they've Sherlocked pretty much everybody on the market, haven't they now? What I would argue, though, is actually I'm in favour of this because I want people to use password managers. I try to encourage that. And I'd rather, if you've got one built into the device, it's there. You've got no excuse anymore. It's there. Go with it. So I think having it there is a really, really useful thing. And again, you and I are big fans of Bitwarden, and we'll continue to use that. But I think for anybody that doesn't want to pay for one or doesn't know how to use it, you've got no excuse if you use an iOS device now. going forward.
No, exactly. I think the missing piece was Android or Linux support, though, wasn't it? It runs on your iOS, your iPad OS, your Mac, and Windows. But I'm sure I read something that it's not
So
kind
yes,
of
it will
fully
sync.
fledged on Windows, is it?
Yeah, so it will sync with the iCloud for Windows
Oh, which
application.
basically means it only goes into your browser, doesn't it?
But it's a good enough start, though, isn't it, for most things?
It is, yeah.
So again, these are subtle overhauls. There was a few more things that Apple released. They'll be in the show notes that kind of there, but there are definitely additional features. You mentioned about the maps there. We talked about game mode. There'll be updates to Apple Pay as well. There's going to be, but again, those really are only more
US centric.
because of the ability to use Apple Cash. SharePlay was coming. That was it. SharePlay now is going to allow you to take control of not just Apple devices, but any Bluetooth-enabled speaker. There was an interesting one about AirPods. Did you see that as well? That AirPods, they're now going to do more about gestures. So if the phone's ringing, you better nod your head or shake your head to
that was
answer
it.
or
To
decline
respond
calls.
to Siri, wasn't it? She can speak in your ears and ask you a question. You can nod or shake your head to answer without obviously everyone hearing or knowing what you're doing.
Yeah, the other one was the Home app got an upgrade as well. So there's new information for Home Entry, the ultra wideband technology coming there. There's a one up to the energy category. I don't know if you're using that in yours. I know we use it at Home Assistant. The one we talked about before was accessibility. Do you remember we talked about eye tracking? I think that was rumored a little while ago, wasn't it? So eye tracking will be released as well, so you can use your eyes to navigate, and also music haptics. So again, I think that was rumored a while back, wasn't it? So the Taptic engine will allow you to experience music using that feedback system on the phone, which is quite cool. There were two others I saw that I had written down. Was the emergency SOS video? Did you capture that?
No.
The SOS call thing now, if you have an SOS call, you can now emergency dispatcher. Now, again, it didn't say what countries can request a video call using the camera, so they keep making it easier to see what's going on. Yeah, and again, there was updates to the health app for medical ID and other things there. And there was a couple of things in the notes piece as well, but I'm going to come back to that when we talk around the new AI capabilities, because the notes app one is kind of cool. What about iPad OS then? Was there any? I guess was one big feature, was there?
We got pretty much all of what the stuff from iOS, didn't we? Although no satellite messaging because the iPads don't support that. There was a really cool one, but they started off really, really badly. They gave us tab bars in apps, which is kind of like a hovering bar near the top. You can customize, or you can click on it to get a sidebar. And I was like, what?
Yeah, you're like,
yeah, okay, that was really, really weird. But yeah, basically the shining one, the highlight was we got a calculator.
Finally, after how many years on an iPad?
Since the beginning, is it 10, 12 years? But it's more than just a calculator. I mean, it looks exactly like the iOS one, but then it also includes what they call maths notes. So basically, you can use your pencil to write out your calculations or your equations, and it recognizes them and solves them for you, doesn't it?
Yes, that's the cool bit. And that also works in the Notes app as well.
It does, yeah. And this is apparently coming to the iPhone as well, though you obviously can't use the pencil because it doesn't support it. But basically, you can do all sorts of interactive graphing with this maths notes. I think they called it Visual Mathematics Platform.
I mean, how cool is that? That you can, okay, you could argue, well, that's going to allow people to cheat. But also, on the other hand, how cool is that if you're taking some notes of something? I don't know, imagine you're doing some DIY projects, you've got a load of figures down, you need to make some rough calculations. And it does it for you there and then.
Yeah, just write all the numbers down in a line, put a line underneath it, and it goes, you want to add, so I'll add those all together for you.
There's so many things here. People do so many cool things with it. Calculator, I'm going to be honest with you. Thank God for that. Sometimes I just needed that there,
Didn't have to use a third-party one covered in adverts.
I think the calculator is not the calculator is the subtitle here. It's the math notes capability, which is the real headline, isn't it?
Honestly. It is. And there was one other cool feature, Smart Script. So that again, it's one if you're using a pencil. If your handwriting isn't the tidiest, basically it can make it pretty for you. So you can write, and it basically converts it to a smarter-looking handwriting for you.
Oh, that's very kind of you. I mean, my writing is fantastic.
I mean, I might be able to read my handwriting afterwards.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because this is the whole reason I don't have an Apple Pencil anymore. I can't use the writing because I'm that rubbish at it.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, that's my problem as well. I try to write notes and I come back and I'm like, this is terrible, you know. So
It's easy just for me to get the laptop out and type them.
it is indeed. So iPad OS obviously brings with it, as you say, pretty much all of the same features that are coming on iOS 18. And again, AI and ML across the board there. A lot of it's going to take advantage of the M4 chip
Yep.
that is now available because of the neural engine. We'll cover a bit more of that in just a minute when we
Oh,
talk about AI.
SharePlay.
Oh, yes.
Screen sharing in SharePlay. Plus, you can remote control another iPad via SharePlay. So maybe helping out your mum or something like that.
Oh no! Don't tell me that. Nobody wants that feature. Tell me, you know.
Yeah, us tech support IT people are crying now.
But in a funny kind of way, though, how handy would it be? Would be like you get somebody going, "I can't do this," and you're like, "Just share the screen with me," and you can scribble around or use your finger to circle around. Press this, you
Yep.
know. So actually, in a funny kind of way, very cool feature. But on the other hand, yeah, for those in tech support or do tech
I'm
families,
okay.
it's
I'm
going to be
fine. My family don't buy Apple stuff because it's too expensive. They're all on Android, and I just say, I don't know Android, and I can't help you.
Yeah, I've got the opposite problem. Everybody's got an I've got the opposite problem. Everybody's got iPhones and or iPads, but they all use WhatsApp, so it's bizarre. Don't ask.
Right, yeah,
Don't ask.
it's that. Anyway, moving swiftly on.
So WatchOS then, WatchOS 11.
Right, again, there wasn't too much here. We got new watch faces, didn't we, as usual? One we mentioned just before we went on air was pausing your activity rings. So
Yeah,
for
that's
the
pretty
day
cool.
you're not
Yeah.
actually going to be doing an activity, you can pause it and it doesn't count against you.
I mean, like you say, that is handy because how many times have you had your iPhone? You're feeling terrible. You got raging cold, or you're laid up, and your iPhone's going. Well, you're not going to close your ring today. Come on, get off your rear end.
It's
Go
11 at
300
night.
calories.
Just walk one more mile to close your rings. No,
No.
not happening. I'm in bed. We got live activities have come to the watch, haven't they?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how that's going to look, but I guess if you've got the bigger ultra screens, that
It's
looks like.
in the what's the thing they do? I forgot what they call it now. We have the little cards come up.
Yes, that's right. The stack, isn't it? The widget stack, is that what they call it?
The widget
Smart
stack,
stack.
that's the
Smart
one.
stack, isn't it?
Something like that. I can't even
Yeah.
remember how to get to it on the phone. Swipe up, isn't it? Yeah, so that's coming to that. There was more stuff. There's a new app called I can't remember what it's called now. Vitals, that's it. Which brings all your health related data into kind of one app and visualizes it for you.
I really like the look of that. I could see myself using that quite a bit. So
Yep. We got widgets as well, apparently coming, interactive widgets. So I'm not sure where they're going in the on the display there. We got some more bits with around the fitness app, didn't we? Around your effort rating and your training load.
oh, that's it. Showing you kind of whether it's steady, isn't it, or whether you've
Yeah.
ahead of 7 days or 28-day trends.
Yeah, exactly. And whether you really put in any actual effort in that workout or whether you just kind of half-assed it.
The Vitals app though is pretty cool, like because that does all of the key things, and apparently it'll give you context on it. So if it's outside of the range, you can kind of what are you ill? Was there too much alcohol in you were at a work event last night? Because your calendar says drinks. I wonder whether some of that's going to kind of pull together.
Maybe we'll let him off today. He was out on the town last night.
They also got some new training workouts, didn't we, in there as well? So there was a new GPS route. So things I wrote down, I think it was American football, outdoor hockey, lacrosse, skiing now, snowboarding, outdoor rowing, of course, all of these things. And also now you can have custom pool workouts.
You can.
Because that was the other thing. It was just how many lengths are you doing?
And that's not necessarily how you do it. We got turn by turn hiking navigation.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yep.
There was also, I didn't catch too much. I need to look at this. Check-ins. So if you're going home late at night, you can have it check in automatically when you get home and stuff like that. Just to the people, your contacts are important ones.
Yeah, because that was already available through iMessage, wasn't it? I think
it was. This has kind of brought it more into the actual watch interface, from my understanding.
Very good. I think again, if you've got kids or teenagers, or even perhaps adults, it's again a handy thing there as well. The other thing is, I guess, is one we should touch on, but they didn't really talk about, of course, that this year is the 10th anniversary of the watch, isn't it? So we are expecting, or at least rumors are, that there would be a special X or 10 version like they did for the iPhone, but nothing was really kind of given away on that.
No, there was no hardware at this event at all.
No, and no new watch faces.
No, they have got no more watch faces. They definitely said some more.
Well, okay.
Oh,
Sorry,
so
they
well,
did
it's a
kind of.
redesigned photos
Yeah,
face, isn't it?
okay, that's what I mean. There wasn't sometimes I didn't see any major kind of announced ones because sometimes they've done that before, haven't they? You're
Yeah,
right. Now it's more around using machine learning to make recommendations, gives you pictures, whatever, that kind of stuff.
exactly.
Yeah, so it's slightly different approach, I suppose.
Yeah, okay. Mac OS
Ah,
15. What was the
Sequoia,
name again?
Sequoia, isn't it? I'm sure it's
Sequoia,
Sequoia.
that's the one. I
The
didn't actually
tree.
write it down. The tree. Now, for us Windows people, we've had this for about 10 years. So welcome to Window snapping, Mac OS.
It's not called window snapping.
No, they won't. They didn't even call it Windows anything on stage because they couldn't be allowed to say Windows.
Tiling.
Actually, it's called window tiling, is what they call it. But basically, you can grab a window, drag it to the left or to the right or up, and make it snap to a portion of the screen. So better Windows management, basically.
I have to be honest with you. I'm looking forward to this.
Well, yeah. When I was forced to use a Mac for a job, I went out and spent my own money on a thing. I think it was called Better Snap Tool that basically made it behave like Windows for Windows management.
I'm looking forward to this because on my ultra wide, I position the browser windows
Yeah,
in different places and things like that. So actually, to have it snap properly would make a change than having to kind of
manually position it.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. We also got the passwords app that's come across to macOS. As we
Yeah, we
talked
got all
about
the
as well.
text effects and the hiking map, but all the stuff from iPad and iOS, didn't we? Really?
There was also an interesting point because remember last year they updated the video conferencing capability, didn't they? So you get the gestures, where you kind of wave your hands,
Yes.
you put your thumbs up. They've now called a new presenter preview, so now you can see what it's going to look like when you share your screen.
Okay.
And you can also add in new backgrounds, color gradients, your own photos, and this apparently works with things like WebEx, Zoom,
Okay.
and of course FaceTime as well as things like that.
Now, talking of screen sharing, though,
Oh yes,
iPhone mirroring. So this isn't just
no, it's
AirPlaying your phone to your Mac; it's fully interactive. So, like SharePlay, you can basically interact with your phone, take over while it's still in your bag.
now, for you and I, who used to work in the mobile industry, where we used to have to
Yep.
demo security software on phones, what was the tool? We used to use a couple of tools, didn't we?
Oh, I can't remember what I had. I've still got it, and I use it occasionally.
I paid for it. I can't remember what it's called, but
Yeah,
basically, we had to buy third-party tools, didn't we? Where you
yeah,
plugged your phone in, and you could mirror the screen. So when you were doing a demo, either via Zoom or whatever WebEx,
yeah.
um, you could show the phone experience, or if you were in a you were doing it in front of a room, you could show it as well. Now on the Mac, sometimes you used to do that with QuickTime. Do you remember you could use your
You
QuickTime
did,
to
yeah, yeah. You could plug it in via Lightning, couldn't you? And
but
yeah,
but the other app, which I can't think of the name of right now,
did it over Wi-Fi.
allowed you to do over Wi-Fi, and you could use Android as well. It's very cool and very handy and things like that. So this is kind of for me. When I saw this, was a bit like we've just gone full circle.
We have, but they have gone further with the integrations, haven't
They
they?
have, yes. That's true.
So the notifications then get integrated, and if you get say a notification from an app, if you click it within Mac OS, it then pops up the mirrored version of iPhone, opens the app, takes you to that message for you to go and respond.
Yeah, that's the very beauty here because we've got such deep integration between Mac OS and iOS
Yep.
now. You're right. You can have full control over that device without. So if you're using it saying continuity camera and you've got notifications that pop up, you can now respond to those on your Mac without having to touch the phone or do anything like
And the
that.
phone stays locked with the screen off the entire time, doesn't it? So it's
Does,
not
yeah.
like you have to have it unlocked to do it, then someone else can pick up your phone and access it. It's all securely done.
We did. So again, quite a cool feature. I'm sure I will find ways to use that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
We also got big updates to Safari, but those updates were the same as iOS 18, iPadOS.
That was what they call it, highlights, don't they?
The highlight capability. Also, if it sees a video, it'll now put that right in the middle, so the video controls picture in picture, so you get the best immersive experience when watching videos. Gaming got an overhaul as well, which was quite ironic given what happened the day before the event with Xbox. So they now have announced several more AAA titles coming to the Mac, haven't they? Which are pretty much Ubisoft titles.
Yes, no, me and my son were sitting there watching that one, and we'd watched the Xbox one. I think Ubisoft have got the new Assassin's Creed, is it Shadows?
That's the
set
one, yeah.
in Japan. And we just watched basically the trailer on the Xbox PC version the night before, and it looked fantastic. And then they showed it on Mac OS, and it didn't quite look as good.
No, don't get me wrong. Metal FX does some great upscaling.
Yes.
It looks fantastic. but it is not a 4090.
No,
Um,
no.
and obviously, the M3 chips and above can do ray tracing. Hey, don't get me
Yes.
wrong, it looks better than games have ever looked on a Mac. I'm not going to say any different, but you're right, it is not the same as
No.
a fully dedicated GPU.
It's very good, but if you look at a 4090 and the size of it, it's bigger than most Macs. And it's not just because they're being lazy, it's because there's so many transistors and power in it. It's the reason it's big, and you dissipate that heat. You just can't quite fit that much power in an M chip.
Look,
Not
I'm not going to
yet.
take anything away. Those M chips are phenomenal, and
Brilliant.
they destroy many other integrated GPUs that we see in other manufacturers.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. Their capability is above and beyond many other integrated SOCs. I saw, interestingly, by the way, with Sniper Elite 4 there and Robocop Rogue City, both games we're both familiar with, or Rogue,
Yep.
especially
Sniper Elite. I could do another couple of maps on that one.
Yeah, Rogue City, of course, is a game that I beta tested and played and enjoyed thoroughly.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Apparently, you get now spatial audio coming to games and a new porting kit as well, which is one of the reasons that they talked about these games coming to the Mac. So it'll be interesting to see. Maybe I might upgrade to an M4. Who knows? You know.
Maybe. Talking of not the Mac, but the iPad. The latest OS doesn't support my iPad anymore. So if I want iPad OS 18, I need to buy a new iPad. Damn it!
It was good knowing you.
Don't know. I might just go and buy an iPad Air. It's got an M2 in it.
Yeah, decent device. You can't really. Yeah. So I guess this is probably a good segue point to talk about Apple Intelligence, because Apple Intelligence is coming to all of the devices in different ways and bringing new capabilities, isn't it? But do you want to give us kind of a lowdown of what really they mean when they talk about Apple Intelligence and, who should not be mentioned?
Yes. So the whole premise really was about making your life easier. So yes, it will do the usual text and image generation, remove people or objects from images like you can on the pixels and stuff. It's not using separate apps. This is all baked into the OS. You can pull up these prompts any way you do an image or text. You can leverage that kind of on-device AI there. But the killer features they were highlighting that stood out to me was personal context. So, it knows who's important to you, the relationships, the information, and it can pull all that information together, which something like ChatGPT can't, because it doesn't understand you. So that was the kind of thing they were trying to really push, is that the phone will understand you now, the AI will. So you got things like it will prioritize notifications that it thinks you think are important, because it understands what's important to you. Even in focus mode. So if you're in focus mode where you've got do not disturb, but you get a message in from the wife saying, can you pick up the kids from school? It knows it's your wife. It knows it's talking about your kid. It will override and pop that one up, because it is important. It's time sensitive. Now, I imagine these kind of things are probably configurable about if it does pop that up or not. But it was good to see that kind of context in action there.
And this is what we're seeing here, isn't it? This is Apple bringing AI features to the phone that have real world use cases and capabilities.
That was it.
And this is around making She Who Shall Be Named more conversational, giving you contextual alerts, as you say. But also, we probably should talk a bit more detail that actually they're also developed this new capability. So this isn't all being carried out with, the partnership that they've got with OpenAI, which I guess some people would have seen that and gone, "Oh, they're partnering with OpenAI." Actually, Apple's built this whole thing which they call private cloud compute, isn't it? They're using
ChatGPT was not an afterthought, but it's very much in the background. They said they've built all these models to run, 90% on device. So all these things like generating photos, text, removing stuff. Doing the personal context, that can only happen on the device, because they're not sending your information to the cloud. That's all done on your device. Now, there is a cloud element that Apple call private cloud compute, and that's when you need more power, a larger model. But that doesn't. They promised that won't ever store your data in the cloud. As soon as it's processed and it's giving you an answer, it's deleted. It's fully encrypted end to end. It uses the secure enclave. They've built their own hardware for this, haven't they? Their own custom silicon.
Chips, isn't it? Yeah.
And they've released a white paper that goes into this, and it's been very, very well received, even by privacy advocates, about they've really thought how to make this secure and private. Yes, there was ChatGPT there at the very, very end. If a device thinks something could be handled better by ChatGPT, or it needs latest information from the internet, which ChatGPT may have access to, it can go to ChatGPT to get that. But one, it's anonymized. Two, it asks you every single time, do you want me to send this information to ChatGPT to get a response? It will never do it without your permission.
Yeah. And you're right, and it's a massive guardrail there, and it is that ChatGPT will be available to use across.
And that's natively in the OS, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's slick. Yeah.
So as you say, it's not going to store any information. It won't store user requests. They're not using it for training data. And Apple has said that you don't have to have a ChatGPT account to take a part of any of this.
No,
but
it's
apparently,
free.
if you are paying for it, like me, you can connect your accounts.
But obviously, it won't be anonymized at that point.
No, which I can't accept that. But
yeah,
if you're paying for it, probably a good idea. You want to use it,
Exactly, you want those extra features. But I'd say, talking of features, who will not be named, got supercharged really. So not only can you speak to her now, you can type to her. So it doesn't have to be out loud. You can type it. It can do things like give you step-by-step product direction on how to use your device. But the big one for me was the richer language understanding, wasn't it? So you can kind of correct her on the fly. So say you were asking her to set up an alarm for 10 minutes that went, oh no, actually make that 5 minutes. She'll understand and set the timer for 5 minutes rather than 10. It'll also understand the previous context. So if you'd previously asked her or you were doing on your device, you create a calendar event with a certain location. If you were then to ask what the weather is, it would know you meant about the location you'd just set up an event for.
And again, it's all about contextual information, isn't it? And I think we've talked about it so much in the past. Is that this is where Should Not Be Mentioned was missing a lot of it.
All the voice AIs are. They don't understand previous context, let alone personal one.
No, but particularly with the thing in front of me, this device of an iPhone,
particularly bad.
It's particularly bad. I want it to know that it can read my calendar if I give it permission to say, right, set me up this or do that or respond to that email. That awareness is going to be massively powerful. And I think, this is even on the Macs themselves, we're seeing that integration. But we're also going to see the Apple Intelligence built into Mail, to Notes, to Pages, other applications. The same way we see ChatGPT to give you the ability to like Grammarly does, where you rewrite this for me with more a confident tone kind of
yes stuff. Yeah, it does support that. I mean, Apple have created what they call app intents. This allows developers to add these intents to their apps, basically say this is what the app can do and how you interact with it, and then she can use it to then pull information or get apps to do certain things. But it also understands what's on your screen. So maybe a friend texts you with their new address, you can basically just say, add the address to the contact card, and she'll know the address from the text. It's about that person. It will go and add it automatically with no input to that contact card and update it.
See, again, all of this is just, again, supercharging it, as you say. And I'm really keen to see something. Now, a lot of these features are not going to work on the older devices. You will need the newer devices.
You need an M1 device or higher, so Mac or iPad, or an iPhone 15 Pro or newer when the new one comes out. Yeah.
So I'm guessing again, and again, it wasn't specified, but I wonder how many of these capabilities will actually be locked to the iPhone 16 because of the capability in it.
I imagine so. And another one that's coming, and we didn't mention, audio recording from Notes or phone calls. So it can record your phone calls, and it will tell the other person it's being recorded, but it can then turn them into summaries or transcripts of the calls.
Yeah, that's a very good capability there, actually.
Yeah.
We talked about the emojis, of course, as well. The other thing, I guess, that we probably haven't mentioned is a few other things that haven't been released. So Apple IDs are changing. They're now becoming Apple accounts.
Yeah.
There was another thing. I was trying to see where I saw it was about payment. We talked about the payments. I think it wasn't it the payments on...
Oh, you can use Apple Pay in third-party browsers now.
That was it. Thank you. That was the one. I knew I'd seen it written
down. But only on Mac. I don't think that's coming to Windows, which is a shame.
No, not at all. And also CarPlay got some overhauls as well. There's going to be new versions of CarPlay that's they're coming out. But it's it wasn't mentioned in the keynote. It was done in the kind of the
dev sessions afterwards
as well. Yeah, so we're seeing that. So the new version of CarPlay will also, for vehicles that support it, now be able to be shown on instrument clusters as well. So for cars that have got it, remember we took that was released. Remember, I think it was last year it was announced, wasn't it? That they talked about the new versions of CarPlay, but we hadn't really seen any vehicles that release it. But now it should be available on vehicles that have that support and what information can be displayed on the instrument cluster.
Interesting.
So that'd be quite cool. Yeah, I wonder if my car will support that or yours.
I don't know.
We will see.
Maybe.
So there was a lot of things to cover. I know, we've kind of condensed it. In the show notes, we've got links to all of the key items that were covered, all of the main links, updates, a few things that we can, condense into the show today. But I think if we'd end up with a 2.5-hour keynote of our own if we went through everything.
Yes.
But these are all the things that we wanted to cover. We thought were standout items or the key messaging that was covered in the WW event. I love WWDC. I think, it's one of those things where you just they pull back the curtain, you get an opportunity to kind of see what's happening, validate some of those, I guess, rumors, the claims. And for me, all of the OS updates are great. Apple Intelligence is going to be the one to watch. And again, we're going to come back and look at Apple Intelligence at a later show as more of the features come out, as more of the capabilities get discussed. There'll be things we want to look at. So we'll be coming back to that subject, guarantee, before we get to September, when we have the release of the iPhone 16 and hopefully an M4 MacBook Pro, I'd imagine, at that point, surely.
Maybe, yeah.
So that's probably a good place for us to wrap up for today. We'll be back next week where we have got the rundown on CPUs and other things. We're going to talk AMD, we're going to talk Intel, and the Tech Rant Rumor Mill is back. I won't give anything away now, but it is back next week. So join us next week for episode 171 for all of the latest tech news and all the other breaking stories. Of course, you can find us on Twitter /X, whatever they're calling it this week. Elon has made the likes. You can't see all these
disappeared.
Likes, can you? He's disappeared, and they're to you only. So never mind. And of course, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts from as well. So please do tell your friends, give us a like, do give us a comment. It really helps. I've been Jay.
I've been Carl. Have a good one all.